The Geometry Dash community has many achievements that have been agreed upon as some of the most impressive accomplishments one can live up to. One notable goal people strive to complete is being the verifier of the game's hardest level, colloquially titled a top 1. I've been in the Geometry Dash community for many years. Well, rather more like 5 years. Jesus, 2020 was 5 years ago. And in my time, I've seen top 1s come and go over and over again. From Tartarus, the Slaughterhouse, Acheron, Avernus, Tidal Wave, and our current hardest, Thinking Space 2, there's been plenty of levels to hold the crown of the hardest level in the game. But with the surplus of top 1s in recent times, it's not out of the question to see the divergent quality of the game's hardest levels. For every Manus by a Reagan or Bubawamba by a Kunakun, there will always be an Amethyst or Quantus processing that comes off as either uninspired or frustratingly unserious that will offset that balance. While you might be thinking that the upcoming levels must be better than the older levels that precede them, that's not true in the slightest. Most of the upcoming top levels frustrate me to no end because they keep competing for the title of top 1 as their number 1 priority and make their quality a secondary priority. I wanted to take some time and delve into what my gripes with these levels are individually so that I can critique them with reasonable analysis. So, why don't we dive into this confusing mess of new levels that want to be hailed as this game's hardest achievement? I'm Carlson Clover, and this is why I believe the upcoming top 1s are disappointing to me. First off, let's scratch the surface of this topic by looking at arguably the most well-known upcoming top 1, Grief by Ice Cave and More. Most people know it at this point, but if you somehow don't, it's the highly anticipated sequel to former top 1 Slaughterhouse, set to be verified by Doggy, who has 83 as his best. It's easy to point out how it falls into the hell-style tropes that became oversaturated during the game's early years, but considering it's a remake of a level from that time, that being the old impossible version of Slaughterhouse, I will let it get away with that. However, I won't let the level get away with the ridiculous gameplay that entails. Yes, the old version of Slaughterhouse did have absurdly brutal gameplay, but the level was clearly not meant to be played due to the impossible wave spammers of the time, and the attention it got when Toshnovux showcased it on his channel proved that. Old Slaughterhouse was a hallmark impossible level akin to Silent Circles at the time, for its obviously impossible gameplay, so making it possible seems like such a strange idea. When this happens, it usually divides the community because it's so hard to balance being faithful to the original while simultaneously having decent to play gameplay. For example, Silent Circles received similar treatment with a remake by Zinfire that was finished in 2020, but only got verified in 2022 after being nerfed from top 5 at the time to a much easier top 40 range, subsequently being deleted off the servers after the catastrophe of its verification. Silent Circles proves that the community much prefers remakes of levels to be faithful to their original counterparts. But what happens when the remake becomes too much like the original? Well, you end up with Grief, a level that has such poor gameplay due to its over-reliance on wave consistency and extremely tight gaps that most top players will not even want to go for it. Iced Cave flew too close to the sun when making Grief, and it's currently in a position where it'll either be verified in a state where it's brutally difficult and unfun, or nerfed down to a much easier level of difficulty, potentially not even surpassing Thinking Space 2, just to make it more enjoyable, both undesirable for different parts of the community. To give another example of why nerfing a level could drastically change it for either the better or worse, let's take the infamous case of Trusta's Yatagarasu nerfs. When Trusta had nerfed Yata down to its current difficulty, he received tons of backlash over it, with people making fun of him for nerfing the level, and the level ended up being not as hard as Sonic Wave. What the community didn't know was that unnerfed Yatagarasu was way beyond the scope of difficulty at the time, with Zoink calling it top 40 in the modern day after he verified it in 2025. Tying this back to Grief, Doggy has been stonewalled on Grief for a few months now, with no significant new progress since 83%. If he verifies the level unnerfed, Grief will likely be seen as an unfun level to play with multiple notable choke points, upsetting the top players, and if he nerfs it, then the level might not attain top 1 status, angering the people who wanted their precious level to be the hardest in the game. It's a complete stalemate, if you will. I know, I'm hilarious. Before I move on, I wanted to touch on this level's decoration as well, since that's what 99% of the community will care about more than anything. To me, it feels lifeless. It has the same decoration style as Slaughterhouse, with slightly more effects and glow, as well as being a little bit grayer, otherwise feeling very similar to its predecessor, a level that people haven't really thought of for its decoration. Overall, Grief is stuck in a purgatory of either being too bad to play for top players, or too easy for little Timmy to squeal about it being the hardest level it receives a nerf, while regardless having boring and uninspired decoration that seeped throughout the entire level, culminating in a mediocre experience had by all. The next level under the Ravaged is much easier to pick apart, that being Cosmos Unleashed by Cherry Team. We can start with the obvious, of the level being made by Cherry Team, and its generic decoration that plagues all their levels. People in the community, such as myself, like to describe Cherry Team's levels as the pinnacle of corporate and blandness incarnate. They also use much harsher terms to describe this level, but I'd like to refrain from using them, as I can describe why I think their levels are bland. The reason why people are so up in arms about Cherry Teaming their levels is because of the rate at which their levels are put out, and how almost none of them stand on their own. Vernon and crew seem to make levels at such a blinding pace that they aren't special to anyone, and it appears to be for the sole purpose of making money and reaping clout, with Vernon allegedly paying our shadows rent just so he can verify Cosmos Unleashed. Going back to the titular level, it's no exception when it comes to having bland decoration that doesn't stick out, but that's not just the only reason why Cosmos Unleashed fails as a top one. Cosmos Unleashed fails as a top one because it has no justifiable reason to exist as a level. The level was conceived as a decorated version of the original unnerfed version of the Cosmos layout. While that might seem like a valid reason and for it to exist, the idea completely fumbles itself when you consider that not only is there already an existing Cosmos level, that being the currently released and rated Cosmos, but the fact that it's placed at 26 on the demon list. It's not even out of the main list and it's being remade already. It's such a weak excuse for a level to be made that it's astounding. Not to mention, if it gets verified and rated, that'll be yet another Slaughterhouse style level on the list. A genre of levels that people have been tired of since 2022. In total, Cosmos Unleashed has nothing going for it personality-wise, with all its assets either already existing in other Cherry Team levels, or its general style being overdone to hell and back, completely missing the mark of standing out amongst a sea of other top 1 levels. The last level I want to analyze in heavy detail is Eternus by Riot and more. Eternus' biggest selling point is that it's a level that's planned to be verified in the game's distant future, and not to be beaten soon, due to the sheer difficulty of the level. This ends up being somewhat of an Achilles heel for the level, preventing the level from having any notable relevancy in terms of progress because of people hitting a wall from the level's difficulty. The current best from 0 is 20%, held by Doobs, and a 72 to 100 run held by Choke Guy. But let's entertain the idea that the level will not be verified in the next year or two, and be verified much later down the road, shall we? Eternus will end up standing as a level that, while infamous for its difficulty, has no real tangible grasp on the community, other than a looming figure on the game's hardest levels. It just ends up becoming another level that might theoretically be beaten in the future, losing its artistic merit as a Geometry Dash level in the process, and slumping into a role of being looked up to for its difficulty, and not for its ability to stand as a piece of art. Many other levels, such as the Cooking Circles, are only known because of their difficulty, with their design either being so poor that most of the community doesn't care for it, or their design becoming overshadowed due to their difficulty taking center stage, such as Avernus, a level that people originally hated when it was top 1, now found to be fun once the level is considered easier than others. If you were to pose the idea that Eternus could be a situation such as Avernus, it ends up contradicting its entire premise of being the game's hardest level and nothing else, implying that the level might end up good if it were to be dethroned as the hardest level thought to be beaten. As a result, Eternus fails to stand on its own as a level beyond its difficulty, because it was solely made for its difficulty. It has little artistic merit to be had in its design, and whatever design could be unearthed is blatantly overshadowed by the fact that the level was meant to be the hardest level ever beaten. All in all, Eternus is a failure just waiting to happen, and most people don't even realize it yet. Throughout this video, I have provided multiple examples of top 1s that don't have any notable qualities among being difficult, so I wanted to give a few examples of levels that managed to cross the boundary of just being a bog standard top 1 into a level that has an actual personality and can stand for itself for years to come. The best example I can think of has to be Angelicide by Lexicat and Madison Yuko. Angelicide creates its own identity through its unconventional gameplay and level design, even for top level standards, including the decoration. It may not have the objectively best decoration, but it fits a style that seemingly only this level has been able to tackle well, that style being the infamous peaceful style, where a level starts off being cutesy before becoming hellish. The gameplay suits this with deceptively difficult gameplay to boot, and a killer song that amps the intensity of the level tremendously. It blends its decoration, gameplay, and music choice out to create a beautiful level that manages to encompass the best of Lexicat's gameplay, seen in other levels such as Moment, and the best of Yuko's decoration, displayed in levels such as Midnight. Angelicide succeeds at being a top 1 by utilizing its difficulty to contribute to the overall theming in the level, which would already be solid without its difficulty, but it makes it the cherry on top of this magnificent level. I'd also like to cover a 2-in-1 for this video as well, since these two levels are decently comparable. Those two levels are, of course, Exasperation by Thicket 7 and Minus World by Ice Cave. Both levels share a common theme of being insanely confusing and are not meant to make sense. They have decoration styles that are abstract in nature, and use various types of designs to convey that theme. What's interesting about these two levels is how their gameplay and song choice reflect the decoration that came after. Exasperation and Minus World's gameplay were designed with the intent of following their song's level of absurdity to a T, and they excel in that department. While it may not lead to the most enjoyable gameplay, it manages to explore the artistic realm of complex abstract art by creating a visual representation of their songs, and their unenjoyable gameplay is a large factor for instilling an uncomfortable feeling in their admirers' minds. The black and white decoration of both also creates an atmosphere that can disturb or confuse their audience by using flashing imagery and creating a sense of eeriness unseen in most of their levels. It's those factors that end up creating levels that will leave a mark beyond their difficulty, and are icons people will remember for their personality, something many of the other upcoming top 1s struggle with consistently. In conclusion, I've noticed a severe lack of personality within most upcoming top 1s beyond just being the hardest level to be in. Sure, the title of top 1 is supposed to be that, but a level can be difficult and have value beyond its difficulty, such as the previously mentioned Angelicide, and I'm really hoping future top 1s improve in quality, as that would be stellar. Side note, I also wish the verifiers of all these levels good luck in beating them, as it's still a monumental achievement regardless of the quality, and these people deserve recognition. Lastly, I wanted to end this video off by saying it's okay to disagree with my opinion. My opinion is not fact, and you are entitled to your own. With that being said, if you do disagree with my opinion, I would appreciate an actual response on why you think one of the levels I talked about is actually good or bad, and not a one-sentence remark on how you're right and I'm wrong. Anyways, thank you for watching. Stay frozen, y'all. Peace.